Good morning, everyone. We're so glad you joined us this morning to learn about all of our Kansas State symbols. Today we have Trey with us from the Kansas State Historical Society, and that's all the way in Topeka, Kansas. So this is Trey. You see him on the screen. I'm going to turn the presentation over to him. I will ask that the teachers and students that are watching to go ahead and put in that chat what city and what school you're watching from and maybe what grade level you are. Just so we kind of know what everyone, where everyone is and how old everyone is. If you have questions along the way, please type them there in that Q&A too. And throughout the presentation, we'll see if we can answer those. Trey, thanks so much for being here. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm Trey, and today I am here to talk to you all about the Kansas State symbols. Um, and we're going to go over every single state symbol that Kansas has. But before we can do that, we have to ask ourselves, what is a symbol? Well, a symbol is something that stands for something else. So symbols are for communicating things like words or sounds. A symbol stands for things like a thought, a command, a place, an object, or a feeling. Symbols are a part of our everyday lives. If you get a smiley face on your paper, well, that means that you did a good job. A street sign with people walking means that there's a crosswalk where people might be crossing the street up ahead. Some symbols are made through body movements instead of being written down, like come on or stop. When you see these symbols on the left side of your screen here, what do you think of? Kansas, like most states, has a whole bunch of items to symbolize the state. These are important to Kansas or represent all of the state. Schools have symbols too. Some schools have school colors, a school mascot, or maybe a school song. When students and parents wear these colors or when they sing the school song, people think of the school. When people see these symbols on t-shirts, banners, or signs, they think of that team. When we think of Kansas, many people might think about sunflowers or the American bison or buffalo. Kansas has 25 official state symbols, and today we are going to go through each and every one of them. So get ready. All right, up first, 1861, right when Kansas became a state. Our first state symbol was the seal of Kansas. It's a constitutional requirement that all states have a state seal, and Kansas was no different. What all can we see in this seal? There's a rising sun to the east, a log cabin, a steamboat, and a farmer plowing his field, along with Native Americans hunting bison. And if we look up towards the top, there's 34 stars. What could those 34 stars represent or symbolize? That Kansas was the 34th state in the United States. At the very top, there are words, ad astra per aspera, which is Latin and means through the stars with difficulties, symbolizing how hard it was for Kansas to become a state. So a little bit of time passes until we get our next state symbol in 1903. When people think about Kansas, a lot of people think about sunflowers. There are many species of sunflowers in Kansas. Native sunflowers can grow up to 15 feet tall. Sunflowers can adapt to different types of soil and are important to tons of creatures like bees, butterflies, mammals, birds, and insects. They're also beneficial to humans for food, and oil can be made from their seeds. Kansas is known as the Sunflower State. The state banner of Kansas was adopted in 1925. It was hung horizontally and had the name of the state and the state seal surrounded by a sunflower. Well, some people didn't like this design, so 2 years later, the state flag was established. The banner was simplified in 1953 to a sunflower with a blue background, and it looks just like this. So it changed a little bit. And to replace it, in 1927, we have the state flag. It has the state seal and a sunflower over a bar that's both gold and light blue. In 1961, the flag was modified to have Kansas written on the flag. Later, the design of the state seal was portrayed on the flag and altered a little bit. You might not know, but Kansas has a state march called the Kansas March. It was adopted in 1935 and composed by Duff E. Middleton. A second state march was added in 1992, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So, 2 years later, 1937, we get the western meadowlark as our state bird. Over 121,000 school children voted for the western meadowlark to become the state bird of Kansas. The meadowlark is yellow, black, brown, and white, and has a black V on its chest. It eats insects, seeds, and grains. Kansas isn't the only state to claim the meadowlark as its state bird. Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oregon, and Wyoming also have the western meadowlark as their state bird, so it's a popular one. The cottonwood tree, also sometimes called the eastern cottonwood, was made the state tree in 1937 as well. The tree is found in every single county in Kansas, all 105 of them. And while it likes moist areas to grow, it can grow in drier conditions as well. The tree grows fast and reaches the size of about 70 to 100 feet in height and spans 50 to 70 feet across. The tree has many uses, both past and present. Early settlers used it for buildings, and today it's used for shipping crates, pallet boxes, and the pulp for paper. In 1947, we get our state song, Home on the Range. It was originally written by Smith County, Kansas resident Brewster Higley in the early 1870s. It was later set to music by Daniel E. Kelly. Higley's original poem was called My Western Home. The song would go on to be sung by cowboys and used widely even into modern times. Home on the Range was our 32nd president, Franklin D. Roosevelt's favorite song. And if you are really looking for a treat, on our YouTube channel, you can see me dressed up like a cowboy playing and singing Home on the Range for a sing-along. So you'll have to check that out later. In 1955, our state animal, the American bison. It's also the national mammal of the United States. The buffalo was incredibly important to Native Americans of Kansas as a source for food, clothing, tools, and shelter. The bison is a large animal, approximately 6 feet tall, and can weigh over a ton. They're also fast when they need to be. The species, once in danger of extinction, now numbers in the hundreds of thousands thanks to conservation efforts. In 1976, we get our state insect, the honeybee. The honeybee is an important pollinator that produces honey. Honey is produced by the insects for food for the hive, but they produce much more than they need to. This overproduction allows humans to enjoy the tasty food as well. In 1976, school children made a petition asking for the honeybee to be the state insect of Kansas. The ornate box turtle became the state reptile of Kansas in 1986. The turtle lives to be about 32 to 37 years old and lives in prairies and pastures. It's protected in several states, though, including Kansas. There's a law against removing these turtles from the wild and keeping them as pets. Believe it or not, Kansas has an official state soil, Harney Silt Loam. Some people consider soil to be one of Kansas's most valuable resources because it supports the state's top industry, agriculture. It's the most common soil found in Kansas, and many crops are grown upon it. The top layer of silt loam is a dark grayish brown that's about a foot deep, followed by a subsoil layer and a parent layer. In 1992, we get our second state march in called Here's Kansas. Its composer was Bill Post. In March of 1993, a second grade class at Wichita, Kansas's OK Elementary School got the ball rolling to make the barred tiger salamander the state amphibian of Kansas. Through much work and many learning opportunities for the students, it was officially made the state amphibian in April of 1994. The barred tiger salamander has a tiger-like look due to the yellow spots on its body. While its adult life is spent on land, its larval stage is completely aquatic. Little bluestem is a grass that is native to all of Kansas and a majority of North America. It can grow up to 5 feet tall and is a great source of food for animals like cattle and bison. It has bluish green or grayish green blades in early summer, such as May and June, and by July it develops flowering stalks. It became our state grass in 2010. In 2014, we got two state fossils, one of which, the pteranodon, was a flying reptile with a large wingspan of around 12 to 18 feet. It wasn't a dinosaur, it was a pterosaur. Kansas provides the most complete specimens of pteranodon found, and they were part of the system in and around the Western Interior Seaway in the late Cretaceous period. The second state fossil, the marine fossil, was the Tylosaurus. It was a large marine lizard that lived in the sea and grew up to be around 45 feet long. Like the pteranodon, it wasn't a dinosaur, it was a mosasaur. Greenhorn limestone was made the state rock of Kansas through the work of an Overland Park fourth grader, Casey. Limestone is a sedimentary rock made from the skeletal remains of tiny sea organisms. It's often used for building materials. Sometimes you'll see fence posts made out of it, especially the western part of the state where there's less trees. Well, that fourth grader Casey didn't just stop at getting us a state rock. Casey also helped get Kansas a state mineral, galena. Galena, a lead ore, has not just been mined in Kansas, but it was used throughout all of history, including ancient Egypt. If you thought that Casey stopped at just the state rock and the state mineral, well, you're mistaken. Casey also helped Kansas get a state gemstone, gelonite. Gelonite amber, once called Kansanite, has only been found in Ellsworth County, Kansas, and no other location on Earth, making this a very special state symbol. Also in 2018, we got the channel catfish, a very common fish in Kansas. It's typically around 2 to 4 pounds, but in some rare cases, they can get up to 10 to 20 pounds or even more. Okay, so on our next two state symbols, we get a little off the rails with these. Although Kansas has made history with prohibition, or the banning of the production or sale of alcohol in the early 20th century, it has a rich history of vineyards. In 1901, there were 5,000 acres of vineyards in Kansas. Vignole was made the state white wine grape in 2019. It produces a variety of wines from sweet to dry. So the pear, also in 2019, is the red wine grape, Chambourcin. It's a French-American hybrid and luckily got named the state red wine grape to go with the white wine grape. And then in 2022, we got a state fruit, the sandhill plum. Sandhill plums, also known as Chickasaw plums, grow to be up to 20 feet tall and 20 feet wide. They grow in dry, sandy soil, and the fruit ripens at the end of summer, and they're commonly used in jellies. All right, drum roll, everybody. Let's get ready for the latest official state symbol of Kansas. Adopted in 2023, the Silvosaurus chondrei, our state land fossil. Silvosaurus chondrei was a medium-sized armored plant eater that lived in the early to late Cretaceous period, and it's the only not known dinosaur in Kansas. Silvosaurus chondrei was named after the rancher who found the fossils in Ottawa County in 1955. So, to go over everything, symbols are for communicating things like words and sounds. Which state symbol is your favorite out of all 25? I'll let you know a secret. My favorite state symbol is the sunflower. And if you ever see me dress up, I always have a little sunflower lapel pin to go into my suits to show my pride as a Kansan and to let other people know how much I like our great state. So let's have everyone type into the chat what their favorite state symbol is and maybe why. And if you have any questions for me, I am here to answer those as well.
Wow, Trey, I learned so much. I didn't even know we had like state gemstones and such. So that was
Yes.
very interesting. We're having some things come in. Some people want to know, like, do you know any idea of like how many bisons are around here?
So we have quite a few bison farms, and I believe 3 out of the 4 Native American tribes that we have here in Kansas, they are raising bison as well. So it's kind of like replenishing the plains. But I know right outside of Topeka and Lawrence, there's a couple ranches where you can go and see them. And sometimes even when you're driving on I-70, you look out the window and that's not a cow, that's a bison, which is really neat to see. But it's cool to imagine just looking out over the plains and seeing thousands of these just kind of roaming. I bet it was an awesome sight to see.
Yeah, I bet so. Another question is, going along with your favorite symbol, the sunflower, they want to know why did we pick the sunflower to be our state
Well,
flower?
yeah, that's a great question. Well, the sunflower, it's kind of everywhere. They grow almost, even in the ditches alongside the highways. So they're kind of very plentiful. And we had early politicians, just like I pin a sunflower lapel to my suit, they would pin a sunflower to it as well. Um, and the women's suffrage movement, women trying to get the right to vote, I've heard that they picked the color yellow because of the Kansas sunflower, because we had made such great strides in women's rights. So it kind of means a lot to a bunch of different people.
Very cool. And another question came through is, could we find that barred tiger salamander like everywhere in Kansas, or is it in only certain areas?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. My guess is it's probably in pretty kind of solidified, carved out areas of the state. But I'll have to look that up. That's a good question.
Yeah, it is. And then some of the favorite things that are coming in so far are the salamander and the sunflower is their favorite. We have some box turtle votes too.
I'm surprised that there aren't more Sylvosaurus chondrei. Kind of a mouthful to say,
I know, and that
but
was new to me
dinosaurs
too.
dinosaurs are always very popular, and we had the marine and the flying fossils, but those really weren't dinosaurs, so we finally got one.
Yeah, we did have a question about who found that fossil, which you or I probably don't know the answer to. Maybe you do.
So the Sylvosaurus, that was found by a rancher on land that he owned. I think he was walking around and he found it, and I think he probably called a local natural history museum, and they came out, and I actually got a little bit of a sneak preview about this fossil even before I learned about it from my job, because my doctor, her husband, his dad found it. So I was at a checkup and kind of got the sneak peek. So I got some insider info way before it became official.
Oh, nice. And then with all of the, some of them said they see sunflowers, like a ton of them driving down, in the country. And they want to know, are those the same type of sunflowers that give us sunflower seeds that we eat?
I don't believe so. I think those are a different type. The wild sunflowers, they'll still get eaten up, but I think the ones for sunflower seeds are kind of more of like the mammoth sunflowers that have the nice big heads on them. The wild ones are a little bit smaller.
Okay. Um, is there um is there one place better than the other to like see our state rock like in its natural state? Like the Flint Hills or something, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So there's quite a few areas of Kansas. I'd say your best bet is driving through western Kansas and seeing all of those fence posts made out of it. But really, if you think about Greenhorn limestone, um, Kansas used to be covered in water, and all of those little creatures that swim through the sea, they eventually die and they fall down to the bottom, and their little skeletons stack up over a long period of time. And that's what limestone is. But you can see a lot of
Hmm.
buildings made out of it, as well as just kind of sticking out of the earth. So, um, yeah, if you keep your eyes peeled, you can see a lot of places.
Do you happen to know how long it takes for a sunflower to grow, the really tall ones? Do they
Yeah,
grow fast or does it take a long time?
just a couple months. I grew some over this last year, and yeah, you put them in the ground, and by the end of the season, they're way taller than me. Um, and I'm pretty tall, so yeah, it's pretty wild to see how quickly they grow, and they can grow in unfavorable conditions. So it's very fun to grow them. You don't have to have too much of a green thumb. They do pretty well here.
Yeah, I see them everywhere. Do you happen to know any more about the honeybees? They were wanting to know, like, do people, since that's our state insect, do people actually harvest honey right here in Kansas from
Yeah,
honeybees?
there's a lot of apiarists around. So our bee population is shrinking, so there's a lot of people that are working to kind of maintain it, to keep the numbers up. But yeah, beekeeping is very, very popular, and I know that the local library here, I think every month or so, offers classes to teach people how to do it. So if you're interested, I'm sure look to your local library and see if there's any free classes out there. But yeah, people raise bees, and they're very, very important pollinators.
Very, I know one of our schools here in Wichita actually has bees, one of our environmental magnet schools. So
That's awesome.
that's very cool. Have you heard any talk about maybe getting a state color?
A state color? No, I have not. But um, if I would have to guess, it would probably be yellow or gold.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's in a lot of stuff. You've got the yellow of the sunflower, the yellow Kansas on our state flag, the meadowlark, the honeybee, gelinite,
Hmm.
um, a lot of stuff. Even kind of the ornate box turtle. It's kind of orangish, but I have not heard anything about that. I know in the past there's been talk about a state dance, um, but yeah, I haven't heard any information on the next state symbol.
Okay. And then we had some questions about they often see the Jayhawk as a Kansas state symbol. And so, like, where does that fit in with all these? Is that just an unofficial one?
Yeah, so that's a symbol for the University of Kansas. So it is something that a lot of people represent because KU is so popular. Kind of the same thing with the Wildcat or Wichita State. Kind of our three big schools. But yeah, those symbols represent what it means to be a member of KU or the University of Kansas. And the Jayhawk, that's a term that originated right here in Kansas in our territorial period. So the Jayhawk first appeared in like the mid 1850s. It wasn't quite as cute as it is now, but yeah, its origins are right here in Kansas.
Okay, do you know, I think we have time just for one or more two.
Okay.
The grapes were kind of shocking to some people because usually we think of very warm climates that have a lot of grapes, but is there a part in Kansas that's more popular to grow the grapes?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I know that there's maybe 3 or 4 vineyards that are kind of in or around the Topeka area. Um,
Mhm.
my guess would be probably more northeastern, just because of the rainfall. But with today's modern, agriculture and irrigation, I bet you could probably grow them a fair amount of places in Kansas. But that is not my area of expertise, so I
Yeah.
won't give you a definitive answer on that one.
Here's more of a personal question. I want to know, what is your favorite part about Topeka?
Oh, my favorite part about Topeka, um, I would say the state capitol. It is so impressive. I mean, just from it represents the seat of our state government, which is very important, but the building itself is just magnificent. $336 million went into the renovation, so it is
Wow.
pristine. It is gorgeous. The artwork there gives you goosebumps. Um, so I really enjoy the state capitol, and it's very impressive. And being able to go all the way up to the top of the dome and then look out on the whole city is pretty spectacular. That is not something that you get to do every day.
Oh, nice. So can the general public do that?
Yep, yeah. So we offer free guided tours of the building and free dome tours. So you go up 296 steps to the very top of the dome.
Oh, wow.
Um,
No elevator?
No, there is an elevator to the 5th floor, but yep, from there you gotta go. I've done it twice. I said I would only do it once, but I got the courage to do it again. But it is well worth it. And if you're a little scared of heights and you still want to see what it looks like, we also have a video on our YouTube channel that takes you all the way up to the top. It's very cool.
That sounds very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Trey. We learned so much. I know I learned a lot more than I thought I would about the gemstones, the dinosaur, the grapes. I didn't know any of that. So thank you for sharing your expertise with us.
Of course,
And
anytime. We've had such a fun time with Wichita Public Schools. You all do such a great job.
well, thank you. And thank you, everyone else who joined. We have classrooms here from Olathe and Leawood and Derby and what are some of the Spearville, some tons of cities around here. So thank you guys all so much for tuning into our first session, and we hope we see you throughout the day.
Thank you all so much. Happy Kansas Day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.